Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Talkin' Movies. As always, I am your host, the real Gino Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Now, before I get into this, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not trying to rip on the Potter fandom, the Potterheads, or whatever you guys are called. I've just never really been into this series. I didn't watch all of the Harry Potter movies, all of them anyway. I had seen a couple of them, the first two, I think, years ago, when they first came out on DVD. But I'm not really into this series. Now, I'm not saying that I hate it or anything like that. I never really got into it. I mean, I'm honestly surprised by this, considering, I love things that involve magic and monsters and things of the such, but I've just never really been into this series. But I'm cool with the people that are. It's not one of those things where I'd be like, look, I would never tell someone, you liking this is stupid. I get it. It's got its fandom. People gravitate to it. They gravitate to characters. I get it. I've just never really been one of those guys. So reviewing any of the movies in this series, especially this new spinoff, has been kind of difficult. I didn't go back and watch my old review. I remember some things that I liked, some things I didn't like. Like, I know that Jacob and Queenie were my favorite characters. I remember the romance between Newt and Tina was kind of, or the budding romance, I should say, it was kind of awkward, but it was supposed to be because they were both kind of awkward people, and it kind of worked. I didn't think the CG in the first one was fantastic. No pun intended. And I thought that the villain was okay. The story with Ezra Miller's Credence was meh. It just didn't really connect with me. So I really was not looking forward to this sequel. And I know a lot of people now don't think too highly of Johnny Depp. And I'll get into his character. I'm not letting that play into any of this review. I'm judging it by the movie and the characters and the story and everything else. As a movie, I don't think even if I would have went back and watched the first one again, it would have helped much. I did read up and I remembered pretty much everything. I remembered a lot of the plot holes, like the forgetful rain or whatever that stuff was, and all that weird stuff. But that movie just never really connected with me. But I'm still giving this movie a fair shake. But just know going in, I'm not going to say I'm biased against it. It's just I've never really connected with this universe or really its characters, though I've liked bits and pieces here and there. This movie is continuing the story from the first one, where Grindelwald, played by Johnny Depp, is in prison after the events of the first movie, and the first of the movie looked kind of cool because it's basically him escaping. And how he escapes. And I gotta say, those effects were kind of cool, but it's about him escaping, and Dumbledore has tasked Newt with tracking him down, even though Newt is not supposed to leave the country. So he has to find a way to leave the country and go try to find Credence, who that's Ezra Miller's character, who is still alive after the events of the first film. He's got to track him down, and plus he has to figure out what Grindelwald's doing and all that. So that's basically the events of the first film, or where we're continuing from the first film. And if I gotta be honest, okay, as someone that didn't follow this series as close as others, a lot of this, I don't know if it's one of those movies like the Star Wars prequels, where you kind of got to know what's going on already to kind of understand what's going on, because a lot of this movie, I'm not going to say it didn't make sense. The movie made sense, but it was just a lot of different little things, and it's like, okay, I know who Dumbledore is, and I know what Hogwarts is, and I know the schools, and all, I know all that stuff. But I feel like this sequel, maybe they're really just trying to do this and not trying to pick up or gain new fans. But I feel like that this one is more for the fans. It's not trying to say, well, we're going to try to win you over with this great story. It's like, well, you know these characters, and here's what happened to these characters you already know and love. That's what I got out of this movie, and it didn't really do much for me. I thought part of me feels, and if you're fans of it and like it, again, I'm cool with that. But for me, as someone that wants to like these movies, I feel like they're not trying to help people that don't really like them that much or are on the fence about them to like them more. They just want to satisfy those Harry Potter fans with things that they like. But I also felt a lot of this plot and a lot of the plots that happen in this movie were kind of lazy. And I'm going to get into spoiler territory here, but I imagine most of you that really want to see this movie have already seen it. So if I drop some spoilers, I apologize, but that's your warning. I just feel like Credence not knowing who he is and him trying to find his true identity and the dun-dun-dun moment at the end when you find out who he is. It was just it was kind of predictable. It was, and for a movie that I feel like is the Empire Strikes Back, and I know that term, that movie gets used a lot as an example of this movie is just like Empire Strikes Back. Is this movie going to be like the Empire Strikes Back? Blah blah blah. Empire Strikes Back. But that's how I felt about this one. It was a lot darker. It was way less funny than the first movie. And then the reveal at the end felt very Empire Strikes Back. I wouldn't say exactly, but it felt very Empire Strikes Back. And I thought this movie was trying too hard to be dark. I thought it was trying too hard to be epic. And none of it just really felt that way. When it comes to the budding romance, or in this case, in this movie, the not-so-budding romance of Newt and Tina, it is what it was. It was what I expected. It was going to be awkward. And it worked. It's fine. Do I feel like this romance is necessary for these stories? No. I think the only romance they should have really focused on was Queenie and Jacob. Because in the first movie, they were the best part. Their romance was the best part. And I just feel like two love stories is kind of, I'm not going to say pointless, but you just don't need both. They could have just had Newt and Tina be friends, and it would have worked just fine. I just feel like this movie it's like, well, I understand they want to give this in this day and age, you got to give someone a love story or people won't like it. Especially since people were still mad that Harry and Hermione, or however you say her name, they didn't get together. And of course, J.K. Rowling has even come out and said, yeah, I should have put them two together. So I felt, even though their romance works and it kind of played off the first movie where things were awkward between them, they did the same thing here. Now it's fine. The way that they handled Queenie and Jacob this time, though, if it would have had a little more focus, it might have worked better. But see, they start off with Queenie. Of course, Muggles or Nomads or whatever, they have like 15 different nicknames for that now. especially according to Grindelwald. He had like 10 different names for people that don't use magic. Apparently, so it's no magic people and or muggles or whatever can't marry non-muggles can't marry magic users. What, you know what I'm trying to say. And so she puts a spell on him, like an enchantment, and he's living in a fog, and she's calling him a coward, yet she put a spell on him and basically drugged him. Probably not the best thing to do nowadays. I mean, she, let him go because Newt figured it out, but it was just weird that they had that going like that when that dude was so in love with her in the first one. But now all of a sudden, she wants something, so she's going to put magic on him. And yet they have her leave, and he chases after her, and he has to go to Paris to do so. And so that part was working just fine. But the part that didn't work for me was, and this actually plays into Grindelwald, because she gets enamored by Grindelwald as the future. And I didn't think that worked at all. And the reason I don't think it worked is because Grindelwald is a freaking generic villain. He did nothing that made him seem like he was this, all powerful. I mean, yes, they did some cool stuff with spells and everything. That's not what I'm talking about. They're talking about how he has a silver tongue, right? Like he can persuade people, and people listen to him, and will always listen to him, and they'll do what he says. And I didn't get that from Johnny Depp's acting. I didn't get it from the character. He just felt like a generic cult type leader. You gotta, if you're gonna have a leader like that in a movie, a villain like that is persuasive and charming, they've got to be just that, persuasive and charming. And Grindelwald just comes off as a one dead-eyed, creepy-looking guy. His speeches did nothing for me. I mean, yeah, like I said, the action thing at the first was kind of cool. It showed how kind of cold he was, and that was fine. But just him being this overly persuasive guy, villain, being, I didn't buy it. I just didn't buy it. So having him as the villain was just kind of weird. Having the Letta Lestrange story in there, I get what they were doing because it played into Credence's true identity or whatever, but I don't know. I didn't like Zoe Kravitz in this, and I'm normally okay with her in movies, even movies I don't like, but I don't know. I didn't really care for that character either. There's just a lot of plots going on. It felt like a lot of setup for the future. They've got, 2 or 3 more of these movies they're planning. But yeah, none of it made me excited for another one. The only thing, again, that I was really excited for this one was the love story between Queenie and Jacob. So, and even that, I get where they're going with it, and it's fine, but I just didn't buy Queenie's turn to the dark side or whatever. So, yeah, this movie didn't work for me. Now, again, I know fans are going to be more forgiving. I know Rotten Tomatoes, the critics are shredding it. I think it's around 40 something. The audience score somewhere around 70, I believe. So, I mean, audiences are genuinely liking it. And I'm willing to bet that most of those are just hardcore Harry Potter fans. And I get that. That's fine. But I have this feeling, though, that a lot of them are being a little more forgiving just because it's in the Harry Potter universe. The acting in this movie really didn't even live up to the first one. The first one I thought was okay. Again, I liked who I liked, and I didn't like who I didn't like. And then this one, things just felt all over the place. It felt rushed. And it just didn't work for me. Again, if fans like it, I'm cool with that. I'm not going to say, no, you can't like it. But I'm just saying, for me, it feels like they're stretching a story. And from what I understand, this story comes from some small little book, like some guidebook or something. Again, I don't know the Harry Potter history stuff. So, but apparently they're making it up based on this and then making stuff up. And I don't know if there's other books on this now or whatever, but I just, this is doing nothing to really want to get me into this universe. If you like it, cool, but it's not for me. That's going to be all for this edition of Talking Movies. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Gino YouTube channel, like this video. Do you have anything to say about this movie? Please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Till next time, I'm your host, the Real Gino, Gino Reynolds. See you later.